What was your I'm fucking dead when I get home moment? I skipped school to hang out with my boyfriend. He convinced me that I sounded just like my mom on the phone, so I should call into school and pose as my mom saying I was sick. So I did. The office lady took the info and I thought that 10 minutes later I get a call at my boyfriend's house from my mom. Office lady knew something was off and called my mom at work. Mom knew where I'd be and called my stepdad to go get me. He was already down the block by the time she called me at his house. I still remember the icy chill of her voice when I got on the phone. It was a dark day. I got caught with LSD at Glastonbury by the police. If you get arrested for drugs in the UK, they automatically search your house. I was 17 at the time, still living with my parents. The police searched my room and found my cannabis plants growing in the closets in my bedroom. They then searched the entire house and found 10,000 in cash and 2 unlicensed firearms that my dad had stashed away in case the shit hit the fan and there was social unrest in our country. The police thought he was a drug dealer. He got arrested. I got charged with possession of a Class A and B narcotic. To make it worse, I was expelled from the music festival and had to get a train home. 300 miles away. All the way home, I knew my dad was gonna fuck my shit up when I arrived. The entire journey home felt like a lifetime. Jail time. How is you and your father's relationship like now? I was a minor and my first offense, so I got 300 hours of community service and a 500 quid fine and had to pay court costs. My dad got 1000 hours community service and 3 years probation. We don't talk anymore, but for entirely different reasons. Well, it was my friend's birthday and we all were at his house. Our friend who was 17. We were fish, he was a junior, picked all 5 of us up at midnight and we drove around. We ended up in my friend's neighborhood around 2:30 am and the speed limit was like 35 and our driver decides 85 is close enough to the limit. We see lights and all shit ourselves. The cop interrogated our driver and questioned why we were out past curfew. Anyway, we got a warning and we all unshit ourselves. The cop is walking to his car to leave when one of our friends recognized the cop as his neighbor and yelled, "Officer, it's me, dumb retard, your neighbor." We all just looked at him. He claims to this day he was the one to get us out of being put into juvie. Anyway, we get home to the lights on in the kitchen and the bedrooms. We knew we were fucking dead. Oh man, he pulled a Tekashi. Damn. Set my school on fire. I was with some friends who had a lighter after school. There was a large amount of white fluffy balls that I think come from some sort of tree during spring. They began talking about how you can burn a dandelion and it'll have a cool effect. Naturally my eyes went to the field, which they noticed. We gathered up a small handful and lit it on the cement, not the field. We weren't completely stupid, but the wind carried the burning embers to the field next to us and suddenly the sky went black from smoke. We ran like idiots and were caught a couple blocks away. Got ticketed and a court date. I walked home that day, not out of having a lack of funds for the bus but wanting to buy some time. It's 7th grade March. Me and the boys were bored ASF in class. The teacher had us working on a Google slide, and we decided to chat in the comments section. I then decided this was so cool I would make a chat room in Google Docs for this to become a cool permanent thing. We are hyped and do it for 4 days in many classes. However, one day I'm chatting and suddenly someone appears out of nowhere in the viewing section. I hover my cursor over it and get a heart attack. It's the tech person. I quickly get the boys off, delete the contents, delete the document, and go to check it's gone forever. It was really stressful all day. Nothing happens. For a week, I have to skip school for a day to go to the doctor, and while I'm gone the vice principal gets everyone involved into her office and punished them. I walk in, the boys tell me what's gone down. I have a panic attack. The VP calls me to her office. Since I was the ringleader of sorts, I got a less pleasant punishment. It got put on a permanent record of sorts. I went to a private middle school, and most people applied to a private high school. Having this permanent record meant the school saw what had happened. I also got a detention. She called my parents and gave me a slip to get my parents to sign. I knew that when I would get home and my parents would be raging mad. I already had a pretty bad chance of getting into a private high school, bad grades and discipline, but this put the nail in the coffin. I went to the store, got a Coca-Cola, and prayed to God to save me. a little bit opposite, but back in middle school me and two friends thought making a game with a point system for who could make the teacher more mad was a great idea. And once class ended I exposed the game to said teacher thinking she would laugh. Instead she sent emails home to our parents without our knowledge. Later that night I was home alone when I get a text from my father, "We need to talk." When I get home I had no idea what it was about, but everything ran through my mind. Did he catch me smoking weed? Does he know I skipped class? Then it clicked, that teacher emailed him. Scariest 30 minutes of my life, pacing around the kitchen waiting to hear the garage door open. Every smoker has this fear, and I'll tell you nothing comes close to this shit. Yeah, dad found my bong when I was 16. I somehow found out before I got home. 5 hours ago in high school, I had to take prerequisite summer school before my first year for MacBook use. I lived 20 minutes one way by car or 40 minutes by commute, bus or walk, transit, then bus, home. I'd been given the task on one Friday morning to go home by myself, along with $20. I called my dad to let him know I was leaving school beforehand. I was a teen with an iPhone 3 or 5 which I used to not call. Experienced with chaperoned field trips on transportation. I was prepared. Unfortunately I went the wrong way on the bus, because the stop was on both sides of the street, and had gone to the next town 5 minutes by bus. I was frustrated with being in a bus or paying the bus for $2 again, so I walked all the way home. It took me 12 hours to get to the point I want to check my phone to see if anyone called me or answered. It was on silent and my phone had 3 people call me 10 times each. My sister, mom and dad. I called them stalling while I was bouncing my backpack and running for 30 minutes till I get to my house. I was met by my sister, being told, "You are so dead." What happened? 3 hours after school to get home. I was scolded later by my parents, struggling every minute by a question, answering them. I didn't want to spend my money. I can handle walking home. I can walk home all by myself. The bus or commuting was boring and stressful. I like walking, etc. The next week before school I was taught by the school counselor on how ride home. When I was 17, my friends were having a beer pong tournament with some college people. My parents have one but really strict rule with me. Don't lie. During the night before I left my house, I told them I was going to get some McDonald's and play some Nintendo with my friends. I ended up killing it on beer pong, but I couldn't control my emotions of my killing spree of BP, so I ended falling asleep at this place. Woke up with 25 missed call from mom and dad. The Uber driver saw the hickeys on my forehead, told me I was a champ while peeing myself before opening the door of my house. You are free to imagine the consequences after. It's always the kids with strict parents that become fucking party animals. When I was 14, I was never up to any good and would take any chance to mess with my parents. We never made it easy for one another. So one evening, I went out to visit my GF, if you can call it that at that age, at her parents' house. I went by bike. When I drove through our village, I met some guys I used to hang out with. We were no good, only crap in mind. They had stolen a bottle of vodka from one of their dad's minibar and were sat around, drinking. Of course, booze was hella strong with 14. I stopped, had a chat and drank a little. Can't remember how much, but definitely more than I could handle. When I went on, I barely could manage to stay on my bike anymore, so I stopped to take a break at a small bench. Well, some passerbys found me later, laying in the bushes sleeping, too drunk to get them to wake me up. They called an ambulance. They woke me up and made sure I wasn't going to die. Then police drove me home. I knew this time I crossed the line big time with this one.